This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening and welcome to the January 18th, 2023 South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. We do have all commissioners present this evening. If you would all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to announce that all public sessions of the South Whitehall Township Board of Commissioners are electronically recorded, filed, and posted to the website for public access. At this time, I'd like to ask our Township Manager, Tom Petrucci, to review our public and virtual meeting rules.
The virtual meeting rules are as follows. Courtesy of the floor for non-agenda items will be at the beginning and end of the agenda. Public comment will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. For all listed agenda items, the board president will call for courtesy of the floor prior to the Board of Commissioners taking action on that specific agenda item. For in-person attendees, please raise your hand to be recognized, then move to the podium when directed. You will be asked to state your name and address for the record and may then proceed with asking your question. For those participating virtually, please mute your microphone or telephone to avoid any background noise that may cause interference in the meeting. The chat box feature will be active throughout the meeting. If you have a comment or question, please type your full name and address into the chat box. The staff member monitoring GoToMeeting will then unmute your microphone and you will have the opportunity to comment or ask a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I'd like to announce that the Board of Commissioners did meet in executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss legal and personnel matters. Moving on to agenda item 4, it's courtesy of the floor. It's opportunity for any member of the public to address the board on any non-agenda items. Is there anyone either online or here in person who'd like to address the board at this time? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 5, which is the approval of our meeting minutes. We have 2 sets for your consideration this evening. The first is for the January 4th, 2023 Board of Commissioners meetings. They have been distributed to the commissioners. Is there any board comment on the meeting minutes? Okay, hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the second set of agenda item B, the second set of meeting minutes are from the December 13th, 2022 Comprehensive Plan Workshop. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Okay, hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 6, we have a presentation this evening. We have the introduction of a new employee. I'm going to turn it over to Tom Petrucci to please introduce.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Lynn Matula as the newly appointed Parks and Recreation Manager for the Township. Lynn is in attendance here tonight. Just to give you some background information on Lynn, she has a unique combination of experience in communication, marketing, and event planning within the fields of municipal government, higher education, athletics. She's a former Division I tennis player and has an undergraduate degree in business administration and marketing from Drexel University. She commenced her professional career with Cedar Crest College as a director of junior training programs and head collegiate tennis coach, and then pivoted to an administrative role at Cedar Crest College. After a couple of promotions at Cedar Crest, she then began to work a position as recreation and events coordinator for Upper Macungie Township, which is a position that she held from February 2015 through to her starting with the township on January 9th. So thank you for Lynn, and would like to introduce her to you. And we look forward to her successful career at the township.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that introduction, Tom. And Lynn, welcome to the township. We look forward to bringing you on board and working with you. If you'd like to come up, sure, that'd be wonderful.
Turn it on. Thank you. Thank you to the board. It's nice to meet you all, and to Tom and Herb for this opportunity. I'm really excited to be here, and everybody's been so welcoming. So it's been a great start so far.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much, and welcome.
Welcome.
If we could just take a moment, I would like to ask our township manager and our director of operations take a quick photo with Lynn, if that's okay.
Sure. Herb loves pictures.
You guys want to get?
Leaves out of the way there.
Great.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Okay, moving on to agenda item 7, ordinances. We have a motion to advertise an ordinance of the Township of South Whitehall, County of Lehigh, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, amending Part 1, Administrative Legislation, Chapter 17, Boards, Commissions, Councils, and Departments, Article 2, Park and Recreation Board of the Codified Ordinances of South Whitehall Township to amend and restate in its entirety the Park and Recreation Board Ordinance of South Whitehall Township and providing for a repealer clause, severability clause, and effective date. And I'll ask our Township Manager, Tom Petrucci, to please present.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. As the board is aware, you did take previous action on this item. However, prior to advertising, the solicitor's office did have a couple of comments, which, while not necessarily escalating to the point of needing official action again, I did want to make sure the board was aware of the final text prior to it being advertised. The additional revisions are simply to ensure that the text of the ordinance is consistent with the requirements of the First Class Township Code. Everything we had discussed previously with respect to the composition of the board and how members are appointed and the reporting that will take place is essentially exactly the same. So with that, I'd seek a motion to approve advertising the ordinance.
Thank you, Tom. Are there any board comments on this ordinance?
I have a quick question. Under Officer 17-12, it says the board shall hold regular meetings at such times and places as it shall designate. Should there be anything more clarifying as to how often the regular meetings are? Will that be at the sole discretion of the board? The answer is no. The answer is no.
I think the recommendation, fair question. I think the recommendation would be to keep it very flexible so that, you can hold them as needed each year, and it gives the township the ability to, to keep that. It's not necessarily a statutory requirement when you must hold a meeting. It's more an administrative question.
And would that tie in then with the first of the year advertisement of all of our meetings? That would be?
Yes, under the Sunshine Law, you must do that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other board comment or questions?
I'll repeat a comment I said at one of the previous meetings, but thank you, Tom, for going through this, and both the model you chose to use to revise the ordinance as well as the process you used to bring this before us for comments. I think it's a good model as we go forward if we review any of our other citizen boards. So thank you for that.
Thank you for those comments.
If there are no other comments from the board, anything from the public? Okay, hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion to approve said motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to resolutions. Agenda item 8A for direction discussion of revised resolution. A resolution of the Board of Commissioners of South Whitehall Township to adopt a formal policy entitled South Whitehall Township Appointment Policy for Advisory Boards, Committees, Commissions, and Councils. I'll again turn it over to Tom Petrucci.
Thank you. Just to clarify, no official action is being requested from the board tonight concerning this agenda item. I'm simply requesting input and feedback from the board on the draft policy to ensure that the policy is consistent with the goals and objectives of the board. You had received in draft and clean versions of the draft policy, which I had incorporated the revisions that the commissioners had given during the January 4th board meeting. To briefly summarize, the revisions incorporated a few different comments. First of all, the comment from the floor was that they're not advisory boards. So I took out advisory and now simply call them citizen boards. So I did address that comment. So that makes it more clear. The second comment was with respect to the dates for the notification to the board. I did clarify the 120 days. I made it more clear. The other comment was with respect to interviews under Section A. I added language that a quorum of the Board of Commissioners must be established in order to conduct business during a special meeting, which must also be publicly advertised. And then interviews, Section B, also added language that the board has to establish a quorum at a duly advertised special meeting, and that the questions asked of the applicants shall be held in an open session at said meeting. Interview Section C, I added language that in accordance with the Pennsylvania Sunshine Law, time will be allocated during the special meeting for public comment under the courtesy of the floor, public comment on non-agenda items listed agenda section. And then also under interviews Section D, I added language that the appointed chairperson of each citizen board at the time that interviews are conducted by the board shall be invited to attend any scheduled special meetings for conducting interviews and will be asked to provide recommendation and feedback on the candidates. In order to limit how many questions are being asked during the meeting, I did not have the chairperson asking questions. And I also clarified that the Board of Commissioners shall retain the sole decision-making authority regarding any and all appointments to citizen boards. And then finally, also added the township manager and or his or her designee is invited and encouraged to participate in the applicant selection process. However, the township manager and or his or her designee is not required. And also added clarifying language with respect to willingness to receive training and education, and simplified the leadership potential section.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. Are there any board comments or questions to the revisions that have been made at this time? Commissioner Osberg.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Tom, like Commissioner Roth gave you compliments for designing the last piece of legislation, I'd like to do the same for this. Thank you very much for consolidating a process, defining it, and communicating that. So it's a very nice job. You pulled the comments together very well, very smooth. I think for the audience, one of the things that I'd like to make sure that it's read and known is actually in the second paragraph, where they talk about the appointment process for all citizens boards is open, transparent, and inclusive for all interested applicants. And I think that's an important sentence in there so that everyone in the community, whatever their background is, feels welcome on any one of these advisory boards. So I think that really communicates what the general interest is, that we're interested in everyone, no matter what their background is or thoughts. Tom, I would go to Roman numeral 5, and I think it's C. And if you meant, sorry, I'm struggling a little bit. This is the section with the, okay, it is 5. It's D though. So, and if you meant to do this, I'm not asking for a change. I just want to make sure that you meant to not include the appointed chairperson of each citizen board and or his or her designee. If you meant to exclude that, I'm okay, but I just noticed that it's not in there.
Correct. I did not add and or his or her designee.
Okay. And the thought behind that would be?
I really just to keep it limited to the chairperson, because I believe the comment from the board at the last meeting was exclusive to the chairperson, unless I heard that wrong.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But if the board wants to discuss, adding and or his or her designee, we can certainly add that.
I just noticed that it wasn't in there. If the majority of the board feels that this is the way we want to go forward, then I'm fine with that. I just noticed it's not there.
Okay.
My only concern would be if the chairperson isn't available, but would like their board or commission to be represented. That's my only concern. It doesn't make an allowance for that.
I guess in the alternative, you could also have the secretary of each board be an option in the absence of the chairperson. Noting that maybe not every board has a secretary, though. That's the only issue.
Yeah. Commissioner Kennedy, you
A
have a
lot of
thought?
the secretaries are, at least public safety are members of South Whitehall Township staff.
Right.
I mean, in that case, so they're the ones, in specifically public safety is our fire marshal.
Yeah.
The comment I was going to make to Brad is that I think that, I mean, how far down do you want to go? I think the chairperson is adequate. And I think that when these meetings are set up, it's not just saying, here's the date. It's set up. I know Tracy always is very cooperative in saying, hey, here's several dates so that everybody can work into their schedule.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. I mean, you can only go so far.
Okay.
But I think that the chairperson is included in that. And if they can't make a particular day, then
May have other options.
Other options of dates.
Okay.
Right, I
Thank
would
you.
agree.
Just to add on to that, I just wanted to add that a chairperson could view the recording as well.
Yes.
And give their
And
input.
with respect to the recording issue, one of the comments that the board members had at the last meeting was with streaming of meetings, whether candidates could listen to other applicants. Under the Sunshine Law, you cannot exclude anyone from attending a meeting, whether it's virtually or held in person. So I didn't purposely omit addressing your comments, but the board must conduct its meetings in accordance with the Sunshine Law. So that language is in there.
Very good, Tom. Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Any from the public? Okay, hearing and seeing none.
So what I would do is then come back at the next meeting and ask for a motion to approve.
Very good, Tom. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving on to resolution B. Are we moving forward with this?
I would respectfully request to table this matter pending receipt of additional information from the township engineer as well as communicating with the property owner.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to table.
Please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to resolution C, we have a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of South Whitehall Township, Lehigh County, Pennsylvania, authorizing the partial release, discharge, and termination of a deed of dedication for access to a water meter pit in favor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation to accommodate road widening in connection with the Ridge Farm project, and further authorizing its execution and delivery of said document by the township manager. And I'm going to turn this over to Herb Bender, our Director of Operations.
Good evening. K. Walbert LLC previously purchased land from the Grandview Cemetery Association for the development of a mixed-use project called The Ridge around the Cedar Crest Boulevard and Walbert Avenue intersection. Continuing to move forward with the project and HOP plans, the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation requires partial release be filed for the transfer clear title to the right-of-way being deemed to them. South Whitehall Township currently possesses an interest over and through the land to access a water meter pit. This access is recorded in the Office of the Record of Deeds. Just so everyone does know, the reason we're only doing a partial release is because the other half of the easement is owned by the cemetery. We are going to contact them. We no longer need this easement at all. So we are going to look to basically abandon the whole easement there. The water meter pit that was there has already been removed also.
Very good. Thank you, Herb. Any board discussion on this resolution? Anything from the public? Okay, hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion to approve said resolution?
Make a motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Herb. Moving on to resolution D, we have a resolution approving the sewer planning module, Parkland School District Operations Center. And I'm going to ask our Public Works Utility and MS4 Coordinator Mike Elias to present.
Good evening, everyone. Parkland School District is proposing the construction of a 39,500 square foot operations center. The project is located east of Orfield Middle School in South Whitehall Township along Stadium Drive. The proposed operations center will serve as storage, maintenance shops, and administrative offices. They're requesting 1.6 EDUs or 350 gallons per day of allocation. As you know, the school district owns its own sewage treatment plant at that location. This allocation request will not affect our allocation at the Kleins Island treatment plant whatsoever. However, DEP still requires that the township get the approved resolution from the board and that we process the paperwork and send it to DEP for approval, considering that we are the municipality that it's located within. So they are requesting 1.6 EDUs of allocation for their own sewage treatment plant.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. Are there any board comments or questions?
A quick question, Mike. If they're move, I know they're going to move a lot of the facilities from Troxel over there. That's the intent when I was on the school board. So would we pick up any EDUs? Because I don't know if that facility on their sewage
Troxel's not on sewer. No, Troxel's not in the sewered area.
Okay, it's not then. Okay.
No.
All right, so they don't pick up anything. All right, thanks.
Any other board discussion? Commissioner Osborne.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Mike, can you just confirm, so this would be an increase in flow for the Parkland School District into their own wastewater treatment plant?
Correct.
Okay. So the DEP then would be the entity that would approve the additional flow and make sure that that's okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
That's
Thank
correct.
No other comments from the board? Are there any public questions or comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion to approve said resolution?
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
You. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Mike. Moving on to agenda item 9, motions. 9A, we have a motion to proceed with adoption of the civil service promotional list for sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. I'll call on our Township Police Chief, Glenn Dorney, to please present.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. Police Department has conducted civil service promotional testing for the ranks of sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. All aspects of the testing process have been completed to include the written examination for sergeant and lieutenant and oral examinations. The Civil Service Commission has certified the eligibility list on Wednesday, January 11th, 2023. So I am requesting the Board of Commissioners to make a motion to adopt the newly certified civil service promotion list for sergeant, lieutenant, and captain. So hopefully we will be in front of you in the near future for promotions.
Very good, Chief. Thank you. Are there any board comment or questions on this motion? Any from the public? Okay, hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion to approve said motion?
Motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to motion B, we have a motion requesting approval of the 2023 blanket purchase order listing, and I'll ask our Township Manager, Tom Petrucci, to present.
Thank you. Yes, so Donna Lagonia had put together the blanket purchase order listing for 2023 as per the South Whitehall Township purchasing policy, which is an annual requirement. The amounts stated were requested by the departments are approximate amounts to coincide with approved budgeted funds. The purchase orders are not sent to the vendors, therefore would not be considered contractual obligations. We respectfully request approval from the board to complete the purchase orders for the 2023 budget season. If anyone has any questions on any of the particular purchase order items, please advise.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. Does the board have any questions?
I have a question. Tom, is this something new? I don't remember this being done before.
I can't speak to previous years, but looking at the current purchasing policy, it does require annual approval. So basically, the purpose of this is so that I believe the intent is that we don't have to keep coming back to you for approvals for perfunctory and routine purchases.
Okay, so going forward, we will be doing this each year, the beginning of each year?
Well, yes, if you do not amend the policy, yes, you would have to. However, I will state that Tricia Dickert, Herb Bender, and I, and the rest of the finance department are going to be looking to amend that policy. So we will be coming back to you. Whether or not this remains a requirement is ultimately up to you. But we will study whether that is requirement or necessary going forward.
Any other comments from the board? Any from the public? Okay, do I have a motion to approve said motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to agenda item 9C, we have a motion requesting permission to proceed with change of refuse collection time to 5 a.m. on Route 309 and surrounding roads. And I will call on our township manager, Tom Petrucci, again.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. So I want to first of all just indicate that this issue was brought to my attention by Sergeant Groger from the South Whitehall Police Department. So I appreciate him bringing this to my attention so that I can bring it to your attention. But basically, I would be seeking a motion from the board to effectuate a schedule change to 5 a.m. along State Route 309 for both residential solid waste and recycling collections, if the board is so inclined. The recommended schedule change is based on reports that the township has been receiving on Wednesday mornings at approximately 6:30 a.m. during the morning rush hour commute. State Route 309 is actually getting backed up due to the collection activities. The traffic congestion, quite frankly, is very lengthy. South Whitehall officers have attested that it goes all the way back to Schnecksville. I did provide a couple of photographs for the board. One is State Route 309 South next to Long's Water, where it shows that traffic is significantly congested. And what is happening is that both sides are getting backed up because southbound goes into the northbound lane, or northbound does not let southbound traffic come over, and then that side gets backed up. So I want to make an important note, however, that Waste Management is currently following their agreed upon contract schedule time. So they're not at fault here. But the contract currently does give us the option to have exceptions to the collection hours if and only if upon mutual agreement between the township and contractor. So what I'm seeking is a motion to allow me to proceed with this change. We'd have to notify the affected residents via door hangers, Nixle, and the website. And I would also like to point out, if in fact we change and there's more unintended consequences, we can revert back to 6 a.m. if we had to. But we feel it's worth trying to push it to up to 5 a.m. Based on the fact that this is becoming a public safety issue.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. Just to follow up, you're notifying the residents in the area. Will that be after this is adopted?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Are there any board comments?
I can actually agree to what Tom is saying. I come down that road in the morning, sometimes on a Wednesday, and you cannot turn at Warfield Middle School to the left at that light because it's backed up on 309 and it's not moving at all. So then it backs up onto Lap and right by Warfield Middle School. Not Lap, Limekiln, right by the Burger King there. And it literally sometimes 3 and 4 lights before you can get 1 or 2 cars out. And then when school starts, the kids then the parents coming out, it even gets worse. So it absolutely is. It is a mess. So.
I want to thank Sergeant Grozer for bringing that to your attention, and thank you for bringing this to the board for consideration. Certainly a public safety consideration for us. Any other comments from the board?
I just have one question, Tom. Have we received similar complaints about any other areas in the township for trash at any other times? I know 309 is kind of a unique situation, but.
Not to my knowledge,
okay.
No. Chief Dorney, are you aware of any?
No, we have no other complaints on traffic backup due to garbage collection. That is definitely the hot spot.
If there's no other board comment, is there any public comment? Okay, hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion to approve said motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item D, we have a motion authorizing staff to provide comments to North Whitehall Township Board of Supervisors with regard to the North Whitehall Township Draft Comprehensive Plan and Draft Parks and Recreation Plan. I'll ask our township manager to again present.
I will actually turn it right over to Chris Stroller, Long Range Planner.
Sounds good. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, we've received a copy of the draft comprehensive plan for North Whitehall Township, and at the same time, they are also working on a draft comprehensive park and recreation and open space plan. Staff in the Community Development Department has reviewed both of these plans. We would like to make note of elements of the comprehensive plan, and as you can see in the memo provided, what we are looking for is to comment on the future land use section, Chapter 5, and future conditions. Areas of the future land use plan proposed for North Whitehall Township are showing along the township borders industrial land uses that are could potentially be in conflict with some of the future land uses being proposed out of our own comprehensive plan. Of note, there are two areas that are shown as industrial land use. As you can see, the purple in the map up on the screen are shown as future industrial land use. I do want to make a note that the land use plan proposed for North Whitehall Township is identified by parcels, and these parcels also will then coincide with some of their zoning. Those areas that are shown in purple as the industrial land use are currently zoned industrial. So it is not that North Whitehall is proposing any changes here. I just wanted to make note that the adjacent land use on South Whitehall side is the green Jordan Valley, which we are proposing has a number of identified place types from the comprehensive plan that's in draft form right now. It is important to note that industrial use is one of the place types that we are proposing for the Jordan Valley, but I would like to read the goal of the Jordan Valley land use category, and that is to preserve the rural and historic character of the Jordan Valley through the following: preserve natural resources and important landscapes through incentives and cooperation with landowners, enhance crossroad villages with attention to the surrounding landscape, encourage the continuation of active agriculture by allowing uses consistent with operations of working farms, and incentivize the utilization of conservation subdivisions for future land developments. So it's just something that we wanted to bring to the board's attention. We would like to provide a comment back to North Whitehall Township just of the potential for these areas. And I should mention that when there are developments that occur along the borders like this, especially areas that you might have a property that goes across the borders, we do our best to coordinate with the surrounding municipalities. And that is the intent with this moving forward, is that we would coordinate with North Whitehall if anything were to be developed in that area. Are there any questions on the comments from the comprehensive plan for North Whitehall? Yes.
Chris, question, and I'm not sure if this is exactly what you meant by focusing us, but from your experience, can you share what is the normal process? I mean, I understand this is one step of the process. Would you expect North Whitehall after, well, first of all, let me ask, have we communicated with them yet?
No, not officially.
Okay. So this would be the first communication to them?
Correct.
Okay. What would you anticipate being the process when you communicate with them? Would you expect them to come back to you, or are we going to reach out to them further, or do we just send them this and it's over?
I think that we would send them this in the formal comment period,
right?
And we would probably look to see what they do following their formal comment period. Again, the municipalities planning code allows for a 45-day comment period, so they are collecting other comments from neighboring municipalities, the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission and the school district. We would probably reach out to them following that 45-day period and discuss what they're looking to do with this. Again, we're not, it's of the opinion of the staff that we're not requesting anything different. It's just something that we would like in the record to say that there is a potential conflict here, and it really just to encourage continued coordination, which we have had in the past.
Would this be an opportunity for a multi-municipal agreement?
I don't know if it's necessary at this point, and I don't know if Director Manhard wants to weigh in about how we have coordinated
I can
in the
certainly
past.
jump in on that one. It's an opportunity to open dialogue,
Right.
which is very important and has the subject at hand, and we can start talking about things like that. So I see it as an important step to get to that next step of potential multi-municipal cooperation or planning. And I've kind of said throughout the whole process is we are doing this, it just kind of happened that we're coordinated time-wise. So I see it as an opportunity to look at both of our plans, fresh plans, kind of look at them and see if there's anything we can do as neighboring municipalities that would coordinate some planning.
I understand that a multi-municipal agreement won't happen at this time with any municipality bordering South Whitehall or not. However, I do see this as a possible seed for communication to a neighboring community that maybe down the road can lead to something positive for both of us. So that's the reason why I bring what is the process that we envision here.
Thank you. I will say that we have great relationships with North Whitehall Township. I'll also make note that the areas that are proposed for industrial are along PennDOT roadways. So any developments there do trigger the highway occupancy process, especially when we have parcels that do cross over the borders. So there, if anything is submitted, they will go through both North Whitehall and South Whitehall Township. So by nature, we will be involved extensively for any potential developments in those two areas.
And just to follow up, it's important to note that the PennDOT HOP process, when they do their scoping meetings, they're typically going to involve South Whitehall because the impacts are, they're going to study into South Whitehall. So we get involved during those PennDOT HOP process.
Any other board comment at this time?
I do have a comment. Thank you. I just wanted to thank you, Chris, Dave. I don't know if you have any part in it, but that graphic really helps. I know when I first was looking at the agenda, I looked at both North Whitehall's plan and our plan. I try to line it up, and you know what? Sometimes it just doesn't work for me. So I really appreciate that. I think it's really clear where it is, and thank you. It's really helpful.
You're welcome.
There's no other comment from the board. Is there any from the public? Okay, hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion to approve said motion? I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Moving on to motion E, we have a motion to authorize Township Solicitor to prepare an amendment to the improvements agreement to Eck Road and Crackersport Road, expires January 24th, 2023, excuse me. And we'll have an explanation by our Director of Community Development, Dave Manhart.
So yes, this is the Crackersport Road warehouses between Chapman's and Eck Road in South Whitehall. The improvements agreement expires later in January. So in order to extend the agreement, we saw this as an opportunity to have the developer provide an updated timeline on completion of the project, inform the board of where they are with those items, and help us decide on granting that extension. So the applicant is here, Jim Murray, if he would like to come up and present and answer any questions that we might have.
Thank you, Dave. Welcome, Jim.
Evening. Jim Murray, Managing Director with Aries Management. David's referring to Black Creek, which was the corporate name that we had when we pursued this approval going on 3 years ago
Yeah.
now. So it's been a long process. The buildings, as you know, are up, occupied, and doing well. We've made a couple of agreements, several agreements with the township as far as offsite improvements, and we've been able to accomplish some of those. The board has seen this letter. Okay. So the letter just details, what's been involved in, the work to date. And if you've been in the area, right, Eck Road's been straightened out, Chapman's Road been improved, 309 interchange has been improved. Those things are complete. The two items that are open are the Eck Road and Chapman's interchange and the Norfolk Southern crossing. On the Norfolk Southern crossing, we're close to finally being in agreement. It's a tri-party arrangement between us, the township, and Norfolk Southern. That's taken quite a bit of time to get through. So we've done all the work we can right up to the right of way. There's an offer letter going back and forth between Tom and Norfolk Southern. We wrap that up, get Norfolk Southern paid for the small taking of the right of way, and there's a couple of weeks of work there to finish up. At the intersection of Eck and Chapman's, when we started this project, we inherited an HOP for the work at that interchange. And so, not to cast any aspersions on Mr. Hauser, but we had lengthy negotiations with Mr. Hauser to take some of his property, pay for the property. That was all associated, though, with that old HOP. And there were a couple of changes that he was pursuing that, through Dave's really great efforts, we were able to, I think, all get to a conclusion. So again, a tri-party agreement between us, Mr. Hauser, and the township, but one that avoided a condemnation route. So while it's taken a long time to get there, it's actually a better outcome, I think. We're all, I believe, on the same page, and we're trying to paper that. We've already submitted for revisions to the HOP to work along the lines of what we've negotiated with Mr. Hauser. So we get the HOP permit. There's an LCCD permit associated with that, the Norfolk Southern agreements, and we get everything kind of wrapped up. The work on Norfolk Southern is a 2 to 3 week kind of time frame once we move forward with it. The work on the Chapman's and Eck interchange, I think I say in here is 3 to 4 weeks. Let's call it 5 to 6 because everything just seems to take longer. And so, yeah, we are requesting an extension of that agreement because, as I've said to Tom and to Dave, we're not walking away from this. We fully intend to do these improvements. We're here to get it done and finished up. And let me just address one question. As Dave said at the beginning of this, Black Creek Group, so that was our company when we started this. Black Creek is a national real estate developer out of Denver. In the time that we've been at this project, Black Creek was purchased by a company called Aries. Aries Capital Management's a New York Stock Exchange listed alternative credit finance manager with about $350 billion of assets under management. So again, not a company that's walking away from the project that we have at hand before you guys. What doesn't show under this is that the entities that the approval ran to has not changed. Right? So whether it was under Black Creek or whether it was under Aries, there are SPEs, single purpose entities for these 3 buildings. That remains intact. These approvals run with the land, so we're moving forward on that basis. So you see a new letterhead. I actually kind of forgot to address that because it's been a year and a half since they've purchased us. So for us, it's kind of old hat, but for you guys, maybe a new name. So just wanted to sort of address that question for you.
Just to bolster what Mr. Murray just said, before this evening, I did check the deed records, and in fact, the property is still titled in the 2 IPT entities that you started out with as a township.
And the ownership in those entities has not changed as a result of this. These are sort of umbrella corporations that a lot of work happens underneath. And then lastly, I did want to address, we've had lengthy conversations with Mr. Height and then also with Mr. Pushkar on Eck Road. It has been frustrating for us, and I know frustrating for them for the length of time that this has gone on. There's been issues that happened in the construction of this project where certain contractors didn't see it all the way through. And that's part of what's also extended this process. We have made the commitment to both Mr. Height and Mr. Pushkar to complete everything that we talked to about with them. Again, some of those things are weather dependent, right? We're not going to do some paving, small patch paving, things like that in the middle of winter. It's been relatively warm. That'll all be wrapped up as part of the work that we're talking about. So again, it's been actually very helpful working with Tom, working with David and the rest of your staff. That's where we're at, and any other questions you might have.
Jim, thank you for your update, and thank you, Dave, for presenting this evening. I'll open it up to the board if there's any further questions beyond what we've been presented so far. Okay, hearing and seeing none. Any public comment? Sure. Brian, come on up to the microphone if you would, please, and give us your name and address.
Brian Height, 1273 Eck Road. I appreciate Mr. Murray's concurrence that we're all frustrated at this project significantly. Part of my frustration with Aries management at this point is the last communication I had about the flooding concerns on my property was June 17th of last year, where I was given an email from a representative of their corporation that said it'll be in connection with the Norfolk Southern and be done by the end of summer. So this is the third winter in a row I'm dealing with flooding and ice buildup in my driveway as a result of the realignment of Eck Road. I deal in development for my employer all the time. I know timelines can get moved. What's frustrating, and you've tried to realize of the pressure they're under, dealing with their contractors, and I'm glad some of those contractors are not there anymore. The problem is the lack of communication. If they would have told me at the end of the summer, hey, this ain't gonna happen this year, you know, it's a two-way street. I've reached out to them multiple times. I get no response. So I feel like I'm harassing the township because they permitted all this stuff. So I would ask Mr. Murray and the representatives, just communicate any delays that are going on. I appreciate in the letter that they're going to remain committed to their representations. I hope they remember what they were to my project or to my property, the impacts that occurred to my project, to my property. It's been very significant, tens of thousands of dollars in personal losses of my property out of my income. So that's all I would ask from them and from this township. Township has been communicating, but there's only so much they can do, especially with offsite. But the realignment of Eck Road and taking out the curve, there's been flooding issues that never occurred prior that far into my driveway. So those are my only comments at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. Of course, please.
I do apologize to Mr. Height. I was at that meeting in the summer. It was our hope and our intention at that point that we would have been paving before this winter hit. Then we get later in the season, again, we're still going back and forth with Norfolk Southern. That's not an excuse for lack of communication on our part to Brian, to Mr. Height. We will definitely try to do better on that. He's been a good neighbor through this whole process. So I have no problem with anything he says, and just, give our commitment to try to communicate better with him. And again, our commitment to finalize all of the work that we're talking about. So I appreciate his comments.
Thank you.
And they've been good neighbors as well, except for the flooding. And there is a plan to address that. It's just a matter of getting to that point, and then there's a lot of little minor things that we'll discuss. You guys don't need to be involved, I hope.
Thank you. I guess I only have one comment or question. The memo proposes staff suggested a one-year extension and to provide for a full paving season. And I was just wondering if that was something we could make maybe to 9 months into September or early, 1st of October, since at that point it becomes colder weather anyway. Is that something that we could consider to keep this on schedule?
I would feel more comfortable with the year just because of going through the HOP process, getting that approved, waiting on Norfolk Southern. Sometimes they don't move as fast as we would like. So that would be my only thing about cutting the year down. If you would want, we could extend it a year, make them come back in 6 months and give us a progress of where we're at with the project. It might not even need the full year.
I appreciate that, Herb. I trust your judgment on that. I wasn't considering the HOP process.
And I'd concur. I would ask for the year. We're more than willing to come back and give periodic updates. And I just want you to understand is our interests are aligned here, right? We want to be done, right? I mean, the project's done, the project's built, it's leased. Having these kind of tails lag is just a pain in the neck for us from accounting, budgeting, everything. We are aligned with you guys. We want to be done as quickly as possible. We can do it, and I fully expect we will do it in a lot less than a year, but we don't want to come back and extend an agreement again. So I respectfully ask if we do it or suggested of a year, and we'll come back 6 months. We'll come back sooner, whenever you guys ask.
Thank you. Any other board comment? Okay, at this time, is there a motion to proceed with said motion?
So moved.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item F, we have a motion to authorize a purchase order with Glick Fire Equipment Company Incorporated for a 2025 Pierce Manufacturing Pierce Enforcement Mid-Mount Tower Aerial Fire Truck in the amount of $1,985,000, CoStar's contract number 13-E22-242. And I will ask our Director of Township Operations, Herb Bender, to please present.
Thank you. After having meetings with all the fire departments, it was determined that the next apparatus that needed to be replaced was the ladder aerial truck. After soliciting 3 quotes, we have determined the Pierce Enforcer Ascendant Mid-Tower Aerial Truck is the best fit for South Whitehall Township. I'd like to commend Citronia Fire Company. They did a great job for speccing out a very functional piece of equipment. This truck was not the cheapest or the most expensive. The SUTFAN proposal came back at $1,724,829.48. The Seagraves aerial scope was at $2,059,826. The Pierce Tower aerial was $1,985,000. This truck does have a build time of 36 to 42 months. We are asking administration is respectfully requesting a motion to authorize the purchase order with Glick Fire Company Incorporated. And just so everyone knows, we are looking to use $1 million of the ARPA funds. We are just double checking with everything to make sure that it is a legitimate purchase to do with that. So we will not sign any agreement till we have that back from everybody that it is a qualified purchase. But we believe it's going to be, and we don't see any issues, but we're just verifying that. Currently, we have $651,234 in the apparatus fund. And this year's payment of the $200,000 from the general fund and the $200,000 from the fire tax that is budgeted to go into the apparatus account in 2023. After you take the $1,985,000 out of that, that will leave us with a balance of $66,234 after the purchase of this apparatus.
Very good, Herb. Thank you. And thank you to all of our fire personnel who helped with this, and Setchonia Fire Department specifically. But I know Dave Kennedy and I both sit on the fire subcommittee, and I'm aware of the work that you and other staff members have done to bring this here tonight to the board. So I want to thank you all for your diligence working on this. I know it's been a little bit of an uphill effort. Are there any board comments on this motion?
I've been on public safety for a long time. And this discussion has been going on for years, and it's finally come to fruition. So I think the township and the township residents will be pleased in 36 to 42 months when they see the apparatus. And God forbid, I hope we never have to use it, but it'll be there if we need it.
Any other board comment? Any questions or comments from the public? Hearing and seeing none, do we have a motion to approve said motion?
Make a motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Moving on to agenda item 10, correspondence and information items. We have current vacancies on boards, commissions, and upcoming meetings with public meeting notices. And I'll ask our township manager to please present.
Thank you, Commissioner Kelly. So currently, for vacancies on board and commissions, one alternate vacancy on the Civil Service Commission. On the Environmental Advisory Council, we have 3 vacancies. On the Green Advisory Council, we have 2 vacancies. Landscape Shade Tree Commission, we have 1 vacancy. Parks and Recreation Board, 1 vacancy. Zoning Hearing Board, 3 alternate vacancies. And upcoming meetings are as follows, and details will be posted on the Township website. Thursday, January 19th, 6 p.m. is the Crime Watch meeting. Tomorrow, Thursday, January 19th, 7:30 p.m. is the Planning Commission meeting. Monday, January 23rd, 10 a.m., Landscape and Shade Tree Commission. Monday, January 23rd, 6 p.m., Green Advisory Council. And Wednesday, January 25th, 9 a.m., Pension Committee meeting. Wednesday, January 25th, 7 p.m., Zoning Hearing Board. All meetings will be held here at the Township Municipal Building.
Very good. Thank you, Tom. I would add tomorrow evening from 5 to 7 p.m., there'll be an open house in conjunction with the comprehensive plan. I don't know if you were going to talk about that, but I'd like to announce that as well. If anyone's listening and would like to attend, it's an opportunity to review the comprehensive plan and to make some comments on that plan to the township for consideration. Moving on to, well, Tom, do you want to continue on? Then we have the 3 alternate zoning hearing board.
Yes, thank you. The deadline for applying for the alternate zoning hearing board position was this past Monday at 4 p.m. The township did receive 1 application. So I think if the board feels it's not necessary, you would need to schedule an interview at a public meeting in the near future. As previously communicated, this is a time-sensitive appointment due to a number of issues with the zoning hearing board making a quorum or meeting a quorum.
Thank you. The board would be in agreement. I would move that we would move forward with scheduling. Is that something that we could request Tracy to get an email out? We can get some dates together for the board. Thank you.
Very good.
I do just have one comment under correspondence and information items, both items A and B. It's pretty clear with the alternate zoning board hearing position and also with some of the other volunteer boards and commissions that we're struggling to receive a lot of applications. And I know the township has done a lot of work, obviously advertising on the website, advertising in local media publications. I know it's been reported in the press, but I'm wondering if it would be possible for the township to make a more targeted approach. I know in previous years when there were public meetings of, with topics of interest to a lot of residents or development projects, there would be a very large attendance. And I know there were sign-in sheets at the time where the township kept accurate records of who attended, their phone numbers, and more importantly, their email addresses. So although some of those residents, may not be engaged now as often as the major issues they were interested in are not appearing on our agendas as often, if we have any of that contact information left over from any of those meetings, if we could send them the advertisement. There are individuals who have shown an interest in township issues in the past, and if there was a more direct communication and they may have missed it in the paper, we may receive more applications if we take that more targeted approach. Just if that's something the board would.
I think that's
agree
a
with.
good idea. And I would also maybe add, is that something we would consider with Nixle as a community announcement?
Certainly, we could do that.
Sure, I'd be in favor of that. The more outreach, the better.
And I know we'll be working on our spring newsletter soon. I don't want to put this off too long, but is there a way that we could change up the way that it's been advertised? It typically has just been a standard list. I think maybe we could take a different approach.
Yes, Lynn and I have actually already talked about that. We're going to go through each department and kind of change how the newsletter is structured to make sure that we're hitting on every department and all of their time sensitive and long term needs for communication.
Sounds good.
Has a little over, our recreation software has a little over 7,000 accounts in it. So people have registered accounts. So that's 7,000 households in theory. So we could blast out an email to those accounts as well.
Excellent. That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to old business. Where's Dam? I'll ask Herb Bender to update us.
Yes, we are making great progress down at Wares Dam. The north side of the creek, gabion baskets are completed. The contractor was going to start today, getting ready to start the south side. Due to the weather tomorrow, we're going to wait to see what it's like, to see if he's going to start ripping them out and putting the new ones in tomorrow. If not, we'll probably wait till Friday. But we are looking to wrap up by possibly the end of next week, early the following week. So we are on pace. Public Works will be down there Friday to make one repair that we are going to do in-house to help save costs to the dam. And then we will get DEP back down there to do their inspection.
That's fantastic, Herb. Thanks for that update. I did see the gabion baskets on the one side. They look very nice. They're very nicely done. Thank you. Any other board comment? Any from the public? Okay, moving on to the comprehensive plan update. I'll ask Dave Manhart to give us an update.
So we're having an open house tomorrow, 5 to 7 prior to the Planning Commission meeting. Our intent is to have some information boards out, kind of discuss the process, some of the goals and objectives, and be there to answer questions is really the big thing. We have gotten some comments through the website. They've been varying degrees of usefulness. And so those comments, the way we're handling those is we're categorizing them, and then we'll respond to them as a category. We have not heard from any of the neighboring municipalities or planning commission or school district yet. So the big thing is really the open house, and I forgot to get the exact date, but the 45 days closes the first full week of February. So we'll hopefully have all the comments by then and wrapped up.
Excellent. Thank you, Dave. I don't know if Chief would know the answer to this, but Crime Watch is at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Is there a way that we might send the attendees that typically are on that list to invite them to show up maybe a little bit early?
Yeah, we can do that. I'll talk to Sergeant Grozer. You can shoot out an email.
If they're
and
coming
actually, he's probably listening right now, so he's probably actually typing as we speak. But yeah, we can get that out to them and let them know that if they're interested, please show up at 5 o'clock prior to the meeting. So we can do that.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other board comment or public comment? Okay, moving on to direction and discussion. We have possible ordinance response to public safety concern regarding closing of Eck Road, Chapman's Road to truck traffic while improvements are being made, and ask our township manager to present.
Thank you. So to clarify, I'm not requesting any official action from the board on this item at this point. This agenda item is in direct response to a recent resident inquiry regarding whether or not the township is inclined to implement a temporary truck traffic restriction on Eck Road until such time that the planned intersection upgrades at Eck Road, which is a local road, and Chapman's Road, which is a state route, are completed. A temporary truck traffic restriction would involve the Township Board of Commissioners exercising its police powers, so an ordinance may need to be adopted, in my opinion, but that would need to be confirmed by the Township Solicitor in order to effectuate the temporary truck traffic restriction. With that, I did engage Tony Tallarita to take a look at this in response to the inquiry, and I then wanted him to update the board. Tony, if you could do that, please.
Thanks. We did look at this, and we could support a temporary, our office and our opinion is that we could support a temporary restriction. We have 3 concerns that we listed. It's in the part of the packet. I can summarize them. But for a temporary condition, if that's what it is, that it could be supported. 3 concerns we have is that, when the original traffic study was done, the assumption was the warehouse south of the tracks the trucks would travel south and come up through Ridgeview to 309 in that direction, whereas the northern 2 warehouses would go north to Chapman's to 309. That's how the analysis was done. By putting a truck restriction north of the northern warehouse, it forces all the trucks down. That could cause additional delays. It would be delays on the road. It would be right there by the BMW dealership, and it would back up at that intersection at Ridgeview and 309. It would be temporary condition. It's on a township road. And it's not in a residential area at that point. There's a couple businesses there. Second is that there is Norfolk Southern construction that's, I'll say imminent, but it's coming. At that time, while the construction's going on, forcing all the trucks could be a concern in the construction area. Again, if that work's done in a week, maybe that week has to be changed. As it's a temporary restriction, it would just be a change to traffic patterns for that week. But forcing trucks through a construction area may not be the best idea. And then third, while we looked at the traffic study and the traffic patterns from the Eck Road warehouse, there are a few other businesses on Eck Road. We didn't look at their traffic movements at that time if restrictions would impact their business. Those are really the 3 high helicopter fuel comments that we brought to the attention.
Very good. Thank you, Tony, and thank you, Tom. Does the board have any comments on the Eck Road closing?
I do have a quick question, please. It says the restriction may impact Banco and KMP, but aren't there entrances on Crackersport for both of those?
There is an entrance on Crackersport Road for Banco Beverage. The KMP is the business up on the northern side on Chapman's. I don't know if they have trucks coming in and out, that would be restricted if they get parts in, parts out, or what. Again, we didn't really look into their business operations.
I'd like to add another comment as well, if please. So Herb Bender and I did discuss this. There's another concern with respect to timing. If we have to order signage, go through the adoption process for an ordinance, by the time that is all completed, we may be in the position where the the Hauser improvements are completed. We don't know that for sure. We don't have a crystal ball, but depending on how long it would take to implement this, we might. Then the long-term fix is the intersection improvements. This would be a temporary nature, as indicated, but we don't know how long it would take to go through the full process. Just a point of interest.
Or the cost.
Well, yeah, there would be a cost for the signage and so forth. Yeah.
So I guess my question would be, the warehouses have been open for some time now. If we're looking to restrict, are the truck traffic patterns pretty established now with those current warehouses. So we would be just rerouting them. Do we see that that would be a positive thing for all parties involved?
It's hard to say at this point. I mean, there's going to be impacts to the warehouse uses. There might be impacts to some of the property owners along, as Tony indicated. I don't know for sure. Like sitting here right now, I don't know that we have enough information to definitively state if it's going to be positive for everyone.
Yeah, and I can't tell you if all the trucks that use that road go to the warehouses or do they use that as a cut through? I don't know. Uh, the other concern I can see is if we get one of those trucks, they're not going to the warehouse. Now he has to get turned around. He's going to have to go on the private property to turn around. And I just don't know what it's going to cause. You know, I'm hoping Norfolk Southern moves quick and we can move this through and get Hauser and get that done real quick also. But I do see the complaint side of it also. So I'm not sure if Mr. Murray had anything to add.
Oh, sure. Make sure the mic's on, please.
So 2 comments. One, I want to pick up on what Herb said. The law of unintended consequences often follows traffic and truck restrictions like that, where somebody now is pushed to go farther down Chapman's, pull into a residential driveway to turn around, those kind of things. This issue wasn't something that we were aware of until just a couple of days ago. My take on it, it's anecdotal, but I believe there's one tenant out of the 3 that has truck traffic that's going up to Chapman's. We're more than willing to contact that tenant and advise them that that's not the best route for them to go. And maybe the best thing to do here is let us try to handle that internally with them first, give them, a paper they hand out to their drivers that has a map that takes them back. It could be that it's third-party drivers that they have. They hit GPS. That's the quickest way out to 309, but it's not the best route, right? So the drivers who are, repeat or company controlled, they can be, controlled better and sent back to Cracker Sport Road. The others, we can have a handout. We could do some signage internal to our site. I think we're actually in a really good place here for 3 buildings totaling almost 1 million square feet. We really ended up with 3 users that are pretty light on total traffic. And I think that's the way I see it anyway, compared to a lot of other uses. Even the large building has really pretty light truck traffic. But it appears to me that it's the tenant in the middle building that the traffic that's going up that way. So we can approach them and talk to them about it first and see if that alleviates some of this issue and stay in touch with you guys. And see. That's just comment, opinion. We'll do that regardless, but you might see some positive benefit before going.
Thank you for offering to reach out to that tenant. And in light of that, does it make sense to maybe bring this back at the next meeting to see if there's been any relief to the traffic issues?
I think this approach does make sense. The township should exhaust those types of options before proceeding with something that's going to cost township taxpayer money and time and effort and so forth. If this is an easier fix, I would just simply ask that Mr. Murray please touch base with us once you have communicated with the tenant. Okay, thank you.
I was going to ask if there were any other possible options for solutions. So I'm very happy, Mr. Murray, that you've come up and give us an opportunity to explore something else. Would this, if we were to do this, would this also include communication to those residents who are affected and obviously complained? Would that be helpful if we did that as well?
Yes, that's one of the reasons I was asking if Mr. Murray could communicate to us so that we could communicate to the residents.
Excellent. Any other board discussion on this topic?
My only suggestion, just repeating what Tom said, is make sure that we keep the residents updated and engaged.
will do.
I'll open it up to the public. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we can move on to direction and discussion item B, which is update following the January 9th Public Safety Commission meeting, traffic calming for Trexler Boulevard and Highland Street. And Tom, are you handling this one as well?
Yes, I am.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I wanted to report to the board that during the Monday, January 9th Public Safety Commission meeting, the township did present a PowerPoint to the residents that live in the vicinity of Trexler Boulevard along the corridor. They were all invited to attend the meeting, and the meeting was quite well attended, which was a good thing. And we did receive a number of comments concerning possible traffic calming measures along Trexler Boulevard. So at this point, I just wanted to update the board on the relevant next steps and the key takeaways. First is that speeding is an acknowledged problem along Trexler Boulevard. 2, the township needs to explore other locations to the 3800 block intersection and 3330 block. There are reported multiple instances of speeding along those locations and impacts to residents, including the home located at 33rd Street and Trexler Boulevard. In lieu of speed humps, some residents would still prefer stop signs. However, as communicated during the meeting, stop signs are not recommended by the PennDOT Local Technical Assistance Program to be used as speed control devices. The township needs to conduct a traffic study along Highland Street and discuss the data gathered with the Local Technical Assistance Program to receive recommendations concerning possible additional traffic calming measures for Highland Street, similar to the process that was undertaken for Trexler Boulevard. I would like to note that we did already contact LVTS and LTAP, and we are on the list for that traffic study. Just so you know, that can't be conducted until March because of weather concerns. Next, residents that attended the meeting expressed concerns that any traffic measures installed on Trexler Boulevard will impact Highland Street, whereby motorists will bypass Trexler Boulevard to get to Springhouse Road. So as indicated, that's why we're following through with the traffic study. So finally, we need to conduct additional research on the proposed traffic calming measures and come back with a finalized plan to be reviewed by the township engineer and finalized by the Board of Commissioners. Again, because this is the township exercising its police power pursuant to the motor vehicle code, we may need an ordinance. We'll review that with the township solicitor.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. I want to thank you and Herb and all the staff who was involved with the outreach to the community on this issue. It was evident by the amount of residents who showed up to voice their concerns and questions, and also appreciation to the township at that public safety meeting. So thank you for engaging and connecting with the community on this.
You're welcome. And also, I forgot to mention, the police department has already put out speed boards as well in the location.
Well, we did the PA1 call for the signs. They'll be posted.
Okay.
Hopefully they'll be up on Friday. Just so nobody drives by and
signposts went in today. Wilbur Schlier from Public Works, who is our traffic guy, he will be installing the speed boards with one of the officers that Dorney is going to have put them out. So both of them will be on Highland Street on Friday already.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any, excuse me, board comments?
I attended the meeting. It was well attended, as Tom said, and quite a few residents came out. They were concerned. I think the presentation that was made by Herb and Tom was excellent, as you can see in the presentation tonight. And I think what was interesting mostly is the comments after the meeting ended, that I heard from people saying they couldn't believe that the township responded as quickly as they did. And that was very much appreciated by the residents. So thank you both.
Yeah.
Any other comments?
Just want to say thanks to LTAP as well. Without LTAP, that's why we can respond so quickly, and it really helps out.
Excellent.
No, I did tune into that meeting virtually, and thank you to Tom and to the entire staff for the responsiveness to the resident complaints. I know it's come up at previous Public Safety Commission meetings. I know there's a lot to go through before this would come to us. I agree with a lot of the resident comments about focusing on Highland Street. And I would also, as you're kind of going through looking at that entire neighborhood, don't ignore Congress Street either. If you look at the map of the neighborhood, the three ways, and I know because I've used them to get through that neighborhood, but to get from Spring House to Cedar Crest, Trexler Boulevard, Highland, and Congress are the three most used ways. And I know, especially not necessarily going from Spring House to Cedar Crest, but going from Cedar Crest to Spring House, some of those neighborhoods over there, Congress Street is a very easy way, a direct way to get over there. So as you're reviewing Highland Street, I would say don't ignore Congress Street either, because if there's a concern that traffic calming measures on Trexler Boulevard would shift traffic to Highland, and even if you looked at Highland, it would probably transfer to Congress as well. So just to keep that in mind, and I know the Public Safety Commission will keep that in mind as well.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments from the board? Any from the public? Sure, come on up to the microphone and name and address, please.
Hi, 1273 Eck Road. I'm the LTAP guy for the LVPC. We had already discussed internally doing Congress Street and Springhouse Road. Not Cedar Crest, that's a whole nother animal, but that's what we were planning to do anyway. So we concur with Commissioner Roth, because the next question would be, what does this do to Congress? So the more data we have, so we're actually going to do between Trexler and 22 on Springhouse as well. So
great, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, if there are no other comments or questions, we'll move on to item C, the animal control contract for 2023. And I'll ask our township manager again to present.
Thank you. So in reviewing the current contract for animal control that the township had utilized for 2022, the township had contracted with the sanctuary at Haftsville for stray animal service. They had provided stray dog and cat, kitten intake, and trap neuter release. The township reevaluated the cost of these services as part of its 2023 contracting process and asked the sanctuary for a dog intake only contract, in which the dog charge was increased to $270 per dog, which was double the dog charge than previous contracts. So the township has spent a pretty decent amount over the last few years on strays per year. So for 2022, through the first 3 quarters of the year, it was 4,170. 21 was 6,660. 2020 was 6,560. 2019 was 6,560. And 2018 was $6,770. Donna Zacharou Lagonia reached out to the Lehigh Valley Humane Society and received a quote for $3,500 per year for dog intake and up to 20 cats per year, which is a significant cost reduction. And we also factored in with the trap, neuter, and the release. The township really has no control over that process. So we have assessed both organizations and did confirm that the Humane Society is considered a no-kill shelter like the sanctuary at Haftsville, meaning they do not euthanize for long-term stay animals. We feel that the Humane Society could provide the animal service in the township, but I believe the board has the final discretion over this matter, so we wanted to receive your input and approval.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for bringing this to the attention of the board. I'll just start out with a simple question. As I was researching this a little bit, I noticed that some of the agencies require proof of residency when someone brings a stray to one of these facilities. Is that something that township currently utilizes so that we're sure that the animals that are being brought are actually from residents here? So
that was one of the issues we had with the way the previous contract with the sanctuary was administered. There was no process in place for that. So the short answer to your question is that yes, we should be able to work with the provider or implement some type of system, whether it's like a voucher program, to ensure that township residents are utilizing the service.
Thank you. Any board comment or discussion?
I do have a comment, actually a question. The Lehigh Valley Humane Society recently changed its name. They underwent a almost a $4 million renovation. They have a groomer, they have a trainer. They call themselves a life-saving animal shelter, and you looked into it, it is a no-kill. So that's good to hear. You want to give people the opportunity to claim their pets if they're lost. I'm just wondering, do we have a limit? Because they gave us a price for dogs. Does that have a parameter? And because the Lehigh Valley Humane Society, they take as many as they can hold, will we ever be turned away? And if so, what would we do?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, actually. That was never addressed as part of the contract.
Yeah, I can tell you that in the city of Allentown, we utilized the Humane Society. We were never turned away, and we took a ton of dogs to them. I'm pretty confident in my experience with their operation that with the limited amount of dogs that we actually take to them, that we will be in good shape, but we can certainly follow up on that just to make sure that is not an issue where we're turned away. And if that is the case, we would have the facilities at our station to be able to house them temporarily until we find something else. It wouldn't be something where they couldn't take them. We just open the door and let the dog run. That would never happen. We would make sure that we would house that dog temporarily until we can get it to another place.
Okay, thank you so much. Because when I did my research, I saw the managed admission facility and read a little bit about that, and that was my first question.
Thank you.
Other board discussion? Any from the public? Okay, at this time, is there any further discussion we want to give to Tom on this? Or are we comfortable going with the Humane Society?
Would the board like us to come back, though, with that final answer as to whether we'd be turned away?
I would think as long as we wouldn't be turned away, I don't need to hear it again in a meeting.
All right.
If the answer is yes, we would be turned away, I think it would be important to
Got it.
bring
Understood.
it back.
Okay.
All right, moving on
We're
to agenda item D, grant funding announcement, Commonwealth Community Assistance and Economic Development Program Public Safety Exercise. And I'll ask Tom to present.
Okay. So basically, I wanted to announce that the township has received a Commonwealth Community and Economic Development Grant through the Commonwealth in the amount of $50,000 to provide for a public safety training exercise that is slated to occur in the summer 2023 timeframe. The total anticipated cost of this public safety exercise is $52,000, split between the Parkland School District and the township. So we've effectively eliminated our cost from over 25,000 each to 1,000 each. So the township would be the administrator for the grant and serve as the lead agency. I'd like to thank Representative Schlossberg's office they were very instrumental in putting this grant together for the township or securing the funds for the township. So basically, unless there's any issues, I will proceed with executing the grant agreement.
Well, thank you, Tom. Thank you for reaching out to Representative Schlossberg, and we appreciate his assistance to bring this to the township. It's a wonderful, wonderful grant opportunity. Is there any board comment or discussion? No.
Great.
Anything from the public? Okay. Moving on to agenda item 13, courtesy of the floor. Is there anyone present or online who'd like to address the board at this time for any non-agenda item? Hearing and seeing none, moving on to agenda item 14. I need a motion to authorize payment of invoices and disbursements.
So moved.
And I will second that.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have no executive session this evening. I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.